Good day. Thank you for joining me again for the weekly Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast. This is the 24th episode. Thank you for sharing. Please keep those comments coming to the YouTube channel. I'm Franklin McKnight. There's a special edition this week that I'm sure you'll like. Before that, let's start with the newspapers. The Sunday Gleaner investigative team comes out with one of the right in our faces perennial issues that we know undermine law and order, but that is rarely even discussed anymore. You got that right. Squatting. The wall-to-wall coverage of it includes how squatting nurtures crime, how it plays into pollution, for example, and Dr. Paul Ashley explaining once again how squatting supports party politics and hence will not be tackled. What the Gleaner is calling a new feature on unanswered questions, it asks for, among other things, answers to questions about the cost and source of funds in the campaign by Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, to become Secretary General of the Commonwealth. And elsewhere in the paper, Erica Virtue digs down into what has been involved and why there is so little information on Mrs. Johnson-Smith's campaign. In business, the Gleaner leads with a story about LASCO drawing up plans to move from a logistics-focused business to one that's customer and distributor-centered with a world view. In the Sunday Observer, Romardo Lyons pitches up with one of those heartwarming stories of enrichment. It features Kurt Henry, 27-year-old curator, researcher, author, and purveyor of Jamaica's culture. He has lifted himself out of the inner city community of Shelter Rock and says, "I lived in the ghetto, but the ghetto did not live in me." It's a story of the rise of a boy who studied with the lights at Linstead Market and Coronation Market, where his mother and grandmother made their living. Henry humbly says he did higgling in those markets and accompanied his mother to sell in communities. And the lessons, he says, have been invaluable. It's quite a different outcome and life to the death featured as the main story of the Observer. That's about a young man whose identity is uncertain, but who certainly was one of 4 shot dead by police in Central Village a few weeks ago. And if you want another inspiring, uplifting story, check out that by Horace Hines in The Observer. It's a story of how a native of Hagley Gap in the foothills of the Blue Mountains, Austin Russell, has made it. Russell couldn't find a job in Canada when he landed there from Jamaica 30 years ago. So he turned to making patties and has built a thriving business in that country. Still in The Observer, Rochelle Clayton has followed up on the Freeport community where residents are being firm about what they want for their community, where Seawind Key Investment Limited intends to establish a luxury resort. It's good to see Ben Brody back in print, and he's critical in The Observer about Jamaica's slippage in the World Press Freedom Ranking. Let me introduce Crystal Cameron, CEO of Crystal Cameron Designs.
So what does Crystal Cameron love about Jamaica and what does she hate about Jamaica? What I love about Jamaica is definitely the people. Jamaican people are, hands down, of all the people I've interacted with all over the world, they're the most friendly, the most approachable, and the most helpful. Perfect example, tale of 2 different cities and 2 different women. Went to visit my friend in New York. Got there, needed to call her. My phone wasn't working. After 45 minutes of trying, I burst into tears because I could find no one who was willing to help me. Everybody was too suspicious. So that right there just taught me how priceless Jamaican people are. With my friend now, when she came to visit me, Her phone stopped working when she was in Miami. She didn't even have to ask. She started looking around for a solution. Immediately a lady saw her. Hey, how you doing, sweetheart? You all right? Is everything okay? You need help? Loan her phone. Stayed with her the whole time so I could keep communicating with her. And even after they arrived in Jamaica, this woman had her ride there and ready, and she would not leave my friend until she saw that my friend had been picked up by me. Jamaican people are priceless. What I hate about Jamaica is the crime. This is a gorgeous place to live and still be so confined within your concrete walls, because once you attain something that looks like success, you are automatically a target. I wish that were not the case. I've been robbed more times than anybody else I know. More times than I can count. I've lost trace of it. 4 times at school, I had my phone in my bag. Somebody went and took it. Once I was able to get it back with the help of the Ocho-Race Constabulary Force. Thank you for that. Another time, robbed in broad daylight. Fortunately, my ball out thief and then some black supermen came with some too before I run down the man and them throw my phone back to me. Another time, sleeping here Christmas morning, Santa Claus climbed over my balcony, robbed the downstairs of my house. Another time, a thief materialized into a shadow, managed to rob my car while I was literally standing right next to it. And I could go on and I could go on and I could go on. Just a feeling of violation. I hate that about living here. I wish that weren't the case.
That's Crystal Cameron, and you'll certainly hear more from her. And now to Desmond Richards, journalist and businessman.
In 1962, Jamaica had one of the lowest murder rate globally. 3.9 persons, 3.9 per 100,000 inhabitants. Right? 43 years later, in 2005, we graduated to the top ranks of the killing fields in the world. 58 per 100,000, and that is a position we have maintained from that time until now. We are now the murder capital in the Americas. After 60 years, our governments have presided over the slaughter of the Jamaican citizens. 40,829 murders over the period, and 11,379 of that number has been under the regime of the Andrew Holness regime. So, yes, Jamaica's youngest prime minister has continued the legacy of his predecessors, building on a legacy of murder and bloodshed and poverty. Enough promises for economic development have been made over the years. Yes, we have had better must come. We put people first. Prosperity for all. All of this has left us in the economic wilderness. Yes, we have made some progress. Malnutrition, which was the major cause of death among children in 1962, is no more. But economic development from the majority of black people in Jamaica has passed us, gone, right? But we are still floundering. 60%, approximately 1.4 million of the Jamaican workforce are earning starvation wages, while between 5 and 10% of the workers are earning wages comparable to those paid in the developed economies. Talking about prosperity, that is what we have. Today, many Jamaicans can barely afford to buy basic food from the starvation wages they are earning. Yes, that's where we are. Starvation wages, crime and poverty. That is what we have in front of us, plaguing us 60 years after independence. We are in charge of our own house. We must manage it better. It's a goddamn shame. We must do better than that.
That's Desmond Richards. So, to frankly speaking, the commentary. In a matter of weeks, there will be intense focus on the 60th anniversary of Jamaica's political independence. And one part of our new image needs to be trashed right away. It's the reality that we have become a people of dirty habits, that garbage is everywhere, and that's not hype. Frankly speaking, garbage and waste are packed up around markets, in transport centers, in gullies, around the streets in the capital city, on rural roadways and the verges of highways, at the sides of supermarkets, in communities everywhere. Garbage is everywhere, a large part of it being plastics. Frankly speaking, people now litter at will and without shame. The Minister of Local Government, Desmond Mackenzie, recently stated that the Prime Minister has asked him to help clean up the communities for the 60th. Frankly speaking, it shouldn't be a passing pedestrian request. In the first place, frankly speaking, Jamaica has not for years had enough garbage trucks, and we lack an efficient system to store, collect and remove garbage in many public places and communities, which is part of the reason for illegal dumps or the bursting out of garbage heaps all over the place. At municipal council meetings across the parishes, you'll hear constant complaints and frustration about how badly the National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, does its job, and how all kinds of communities are sinking in garbage. Frankly speaking, parish capitals and major towns may now be graded on which is the nastiest. Once upon a time, since independence, Mandeville was a standard for cleanliness. Now everything has sunk to a new low. If Jamaica is to be known as a clean place and its people are seriously embracing cleanliness, a simple request to clean up for independence won't be good enough. After all, it would need to become a habit. But, frankly speaking, it might well be a good place to start. It's one of those things where an opportunity could be grasped for scarce, imaginative leadership, and where everyone can help make the difference. What a wonderful 60th anniversary present that could be. How we have changed. Elkanah Rule takes us back to the 50s and early 60s and what weddings used to be like. Yes, the receptions were a commercial event.
Those days, each person at their weddings, at their homes, the ceremony took place in the homes, regardless how simple the homes were. That's where they had it, but they made all kind of preparation, do what they could to dress up the place. The groom mainly went from home to home. There was no written invitation in those days. They went from home to home and invited the people, the occupants of those homes. And these weddings took place in churches, but sometimes the churches were a little distance away, and the means of transportation at that time was a truck, because a truck was always available in any community, but there was hardly any motor cars and buses. So the people would go on these trucks. The bride and the groom would get special seats in the front, while the guests would travel on the back of the truck. So, well, it was lengthy occasion. Many songs were sung, many prayers were said, and it was really a long day until finally in the afternoon they would reach the place where the ceremony was taking place, and then they would have a few songs and a few prayers again, and the bride's reception, they would use a cake, the wedding cake, to raise funds.
Bidding go? How did that bidding go? What you bidding for? You bidding for a piece of cake? What?
No, the whole cake. They would not lift the veil off the cake until a certain money. Who would like to see the queen?
Ah, and so
We
is lifting the
need
veil.
it's
Is
to
lifting the
lift
veil is the way to see the Queen.
Right.
Ah.
Lifting the veil was the way to see the Queen. At the end of the bidding, they would say, all right, the groom gets so much and so much, and the bride gets so much and so much, but we are going to ask the bride to keep the whole of this money until the final time that they can split it.
That's Elkanah Rule, author and educator. That's it for Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast today. Thank you for sharing. And please keep those comments coming to the YouTube channel. If you haven't yet done so, please subscribe. Until then, I'm Franklin McKnight.